I started reading a new series, Liam.
Yeah.
My little site that I go on called Best Fantasy Books and Best Sci-Fi Books.
Yeah. Can I just point out, we had some listener feedback in person.
Did they say, we love Jack's book reviews?
No, Kat turned to me. I made her listen to the last episode because she wanted to know why it was titled that. And so I made her listen to figure out why it was titled that. And she stopped listening at one point, turned to me and goes, Jack's books sound fucking boring, don't they? And I just went, yeah. She went, yeah, you sound bored listening to him. And I went, yeah. And then she carried on listening.
Does she say that about me when I'm listening to your films, Liam?
Yeah.
Does she, though?
Well, no,
because I think I tend to do quite a good job of pretending I give a shit about some of the films you talk about. When really, Liam, I honestly do not.
Here's the difference, Jack. I talk about a wide array of films. There's a variety.
If you'd let me power through this bit that I wanted to do quickly, I can talk about the other shit I've done that I actually want to talk about.
I'm just giving you our listener feedback.
I don't want to do books anymore because you make such a big bullshit deal out of it.
No. I'm happy for you to do books, Jack.
No, you aren't.
Yeah,
and you know you're not.
No, so honestly, because as we just proved earlier, I listen when you do the book reviews.
Yeah, but you don't care, Liam. You don't care anymore.
I
remember when this relationship was all about caring.
When was that?
I don't know.
Anyway, come on. Let's
I read a book called A Crown for Cold Silver.
This is the issue I have, though, with your book reviews.
Go on.
It's like, just read something different, please, for me. Like, I get that you.
What do you mean read something different?
Read a Stephen King book. I know you like him.
I've read all. There's not many left for me to read.
I know, but just listening to you drone on and on about all these different fantasy books, just every now and again, just for Liam, just for his sanity, can we just chuck in a different genre?
I do sci-fi as well.
Yeah, exactly. Can we do a genre that isn't going to bore Liam silly?
No, because I find those genres boring.
No, you like Stephen King, and he's not all fantasy and sci-fi.
He's horror. I tried to find some horror books the other day, but there's not a lot of recent horror books, apparently.
Is that... That's... I don't know about that.
Go on.
Can I recommend a book to you?
Yeah, please.
Have you read any James Herbert?
Don't think so.
Can I recommend you read Fluke?
Okay.
It's not horror. He's a horror writer.
Oh, what is it then?
He's a horror writer.
If it's a fantasy book, Liam, I'm going to punch you.
No, it isn't. Is
it sci-fi?
No.
If it's a coming-of-age book, I'm not reading it.
It's not. He traditionally does books like Rats and I can't remember what his other books are called, but he's known for doing horror, and then he's done this one book called Fluke that is just beautiful, and I actually think you would like it. So
fine. There
we go. Anyway, the Crown of Winter, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, fuck you, whatever.
What was it called?
A Crown of Cold Silver, or A Crown for Cold Silver.
I was close.
It's by Alex Marshall. It's really good. If you like the bullshit I like, go read it.
What's it about?
Fantasy shit.
Is there dragons?
No.
Is it politics?
No, I want to talk about this book, and you've ruined it. And
that's why I'm asking questions, because I want to know what sort of fantasy it is for our listeners.
There's a thing called Grimdark, which I've talked about before, which is brutal, hardcore fantasy.
Yeah.
Like people getting their fingers cut off and stuff. Yeah. This is called gritty fantasy. There's apparently a difference.
What is that difference?
I'll be honest with you, after reading this, I think the difference is it's less dark.
So is like you've got fantasy.
Yeah.
Then you've got a slightly darker fantasy, which is this
No,
one.
No, this is still darker than regular fantasy.
That's what I'm saying. So you've got normal fantasy, then a slightly darker one, which is this.
Yeah.
Then grimdark.
Yeah, I feel like this genre is allowed to maybe have better things happen to people. Like grimdark is very much you're following someone who's definitely not a good guy as they do horrible things to people, and then whatever their character arc is, it probably doesn't end with them getting what they want.
Right, okay.
Whereas this, I sort of feel like maybe they might get what they want, possibly.
What's this genre called?
I think it was called gritty fantasy, or grit, or fantasy grit, or something.
Can we call it grit dark?
Well, it's not really dark, but yeah, sure, fuck it. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want.
Shit. Anyway, carry on.
Okay, no, Liam, okay. Right, hear me out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about the stuff I usually do
with
the books, because that bores you. So I'm just going to tell you the premise of this.
Okay.
Which I really like.
Okay.
Because instead of the usual, hero's journey stuff...
Which you know I hate.
Yeah, exactly.
Jason
this is not
that one out.
At all. Right? This follows 6 characters called... There's 5 villains and 1 person called Zosia or something. But they are basically... This story picks up when they're 60 years old. And they have already... She led them all on this massive rebellion where they did horrible things to win this crown. Take over a kingdom. And then she quickly discovered that she in fact did not want to rule a kingdom because it's shit hard. Right?
Yeah.
And so you pick up with her living just this normal life after faking her own death. And then sort of someone rediscovers her and does some bad things to some people she likes. and this book is literally just about her wanting to murder the Queen because they had a deal that she'd be left alone.
Okay.
So she goes and gets the old group back together, and it's all about them just... Like, the book opens with her burning someone to death on her porch.
Right. That seems like quite an extreme reaction.
Yeah, she's not... Like, this book is not... They're not good people. One of them's, like, a huge drug addict who used to... Like, he used to be this barbarian warrior, but then got into drugs after their group fell apart.
Okay.
So he's, like, battling with addiction. There's some creepy mage that eats spirits who no one really knows what his goal is. Like, he might not be working with the group, even though he's with them.
Yeah.
Like, it's all... So it all feels like it's building into this, like... It feels like there's going to be a lot of backstabbing, and maybe the people that are meant to be friends are not really friends. This book was a good setup to that story, so I'm hoping that it continues like that.
So this is like part of a series?
Yeah, I think there's maybe 3 or 4 books.
Okay.
And I've read the first one.
And it was... So is it... Like, I don't really understand...
What don't you understand, Liam?
What it's like about. Like, your description of what it's about doesn't quite make sense to me. Like, what is the actual... Like, because you told me, like, what happened before the book kind of starts, but then...
Yeah.
What is the actual, like, book about?
It's her getting her group of villains back together.
But why?
To get revenge on the Queen.
But why?
She made a deal that she would get to live a normal life if she gave up the crown.
Yeah.
In, like, this big, elaborate, pretend death way.
Yeah.
And then the Queen does something that sort of breaks that deal and ends with some pretty horrible stuff happening to people that the main character likes a lot.
Okay.
So then she, like, goes to get revenge. It's a revenge book, Liam.
Okay, so would you say, like, people who are fans of, like, grimdark would like this, or is it a bit too tame for them?
No, it's still got some scenes of, you know, pretty brutal stuff. It's not as brutal as other grimdark books.
Would you say it's a good way, for someone who's never read grimdark and thinks it might be too extreme, is this a good way of, like, dipping their toes in the water and testing?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. What sort of, like, age is the audience of this book, would you say?
I've got a shit all idea, mate.
Okay. Well, is there a lot of, like, sex and violence and stuff?
There's some sex, there's some violence.
Like, if we had, say, some teenage listeners...
Yeah, they should go read it. But when I was a teenager, I didn't get to watch, like, adult films, but I read a lot of adult books.
Okay.
So for me, books just fucking do whatever you want.
Yeah, like, I remember when I was, like, 13 or whatever, like, my favourite author at the time was probably R.L. Stein. We'll talk more about him later. And he had this, like, adult horror book out that I saw in the library, and I really wanted to read it, and my mum got it out and read it first to see if it was suitable for me, and she said it wasn't.
When I was about 13, I read a book called Orcs, which had a evil witch using a unicorn horn as a dildo in it.
Did you understand that?
Yeah.
You had different 13-year-olds, like, lives.
Like I said, I read a lot of adult books, not, like, specifically porn ones. That one was quite a shock when it got to the unicorn horn dildoing scene. But...
I can imagine, yes. And she used that in her vagina?
Yeah, apparently so. If I remember rightly, it was cold, was the description.
Okay.
I need to read that series again.
Yeah. So, out of 5?
4.